Welcome to the Morning Report, a production of fightbackmedia.com, the #1 source of urban conservative information in America.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. Trust that you are well this fantastic day. I wanted to get all the numbers, and it's taken all this time to get the numbers because Arizona just called the election for Donald Trump. It's Sunday. It's Sunday afternoon while I'm doing this. They just called the election for Donald Trump. Oh, I know you want to hear about Maricopa County. Let me tell you about Maricopa County. Maricopa County is a highly populous county in Arizona. I think that's where Phoenix is. If somebody can help me. I think that's where Phoenix is. Donald Trump wins 51.6% to 47.6% over Kamala Harris. There's a percentage of other people, probably Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Adolf Hitler, me, that's in there. But in Arizona, in total, Trump wins by about 6 points. He wins 52.6% to Kamala Harris's 46.4%. Jill Stein got her typical 0.5%, and Chase Oliver gets his typical 0.5%. Jill Stein, Green Party, Chase Oliver, Libertarian Party. Okay. So when people tell you, oh, I'm sick of this two-party system, you go, what about the Green Party? They're out there. What about the Libertarian Party? You could support one of them if you wanted to. Right now, there are two dominant parties. There are a bunch of different parties. All you have to do is just do, I don't know, that much looking. I wouldn't even call it research. It's just looking. But anyway, what this means is that the Electoral College vote is in. Donald Trump wins 312 to Kamala Harris's 226. Donald Trump was able to garner 57% of the Electoral College. Senate seats right now are 53 Republican to 46 Democrat. U.S. House seats right now are 213 for Republicans and 203 for Democrats. There is a very good shot that Democrats will again be in the rear in the House, and Republicans will have control. I think you need 218 to have control. And believe it or not, around the country, some of those races have yet to be called. And in some of those places that have yet to be called, yes, some of them are in Arizona. Let's take a quick look. Let's see. I may be wrong. I don't want to lie. Looks like all of the House seats in Arizona have been called. Eli Crane wins with 90.1% of the vote in. Paul Gosar, the incumbent, wins. Let's see here. In District 8, Abraham Hamilton wins, I think his name is. And then there is David Schweikert. He wins. And Juan Sismani, he also wins. It's close. And they haven't called it yet, which is why we're only at 213. You haven't called it yet. It's with only 79.4% of the votes. And you know, I had this discussion, this quick discussion with my pastor and his daughter. We were just having this sort of offhanded conversation as you know, church is getting out and we're walking out. He said, "What are they using in Arizona to count votes? An abacus? Are they using an abacus?" There are still, let me look, 2 districts that are not called yet. District 1, I think that's one we were just looking at. And District 6, we're just looking at that. And District 1 is not called yet. How is that possible? Now, a congressional district is about 600,000 people. That's it. 600,000 people. A lot of major cities in America have more than 600,000 people. And they're able to get those votes counted fairly quickly. It is my gut, and it's only my gut, that if it takes this long, they're not being careful to make sure all the votes are counted. They're being careful to see that the person that they want to get elected actually gets elected. It's the only thing it could be. This election was last Tuesday. It was nearly 7 days ago. It was last Tuesday. And then early voting before that. District 1, which is the smallest district by square mileage in the entire state. It's the smallest district. And right now, David Schweikert leads 52.2% to 47.8%, with 90% of the vote in. And it's still up for debate. Anyway, Trump wins 312 to 226. Now, I like to look at things from a historic standpoint because when you do that, you get sort of a feel for how things are going to be if you can look at how things have been. Welcome to my word salad. Unburdened. In any case, I want to look back and see, because people are calling this a mandate and historic, and that's sort of hyperbolic in my eyes. You know, those words are used a lot, and there's not exactly true. So let's look back. Let's look back at 2020. I know. We're just going to make the assumption that there was no funny business. All right. Anyway, Joe Biden has 306 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 232. So even in Donald Trump's loss in 2020, he had more electoral votes than Kamala Harris last time in 2020. In 2016, we got an ant there, dead ant now. In 2016, it was Trump 304 to Clinton's 277. Let me make sure I get that right. That was in 16. Let me click the yes, 304 to 227. So the 312 total right now is the biggest total since 2016. Now, that's not anywhere near. Now, people who are calling for all this mandate, all this, this victory lap, let me tell you, it's great to win. I wouldn't have had it any other way. But let's look at some historical butt whippings. Let's look back. Let's look back at 1996. 1996, the combatants were Bill Clinton in his second term and Bob Dole. Bob Dole, who referred to himself in the third person at every speech. Well, what Bob Dole thinks? Like, Bob, you are Bob Dole. And he only seemed to break out of that nonsense after the election when he started doing commercials and he was on Saturday Night Live. And Bob Dole, I'm sorry, that was not nice. But in any case, only seemed to break out of that really stiff thing after the election was over. In 1996, Bob Dole lost to Bill Clinton 379 electoral votes to 159. Wow. 379 79 out of the 538 that are available. Bill Clinton won 70% of the electoral vote. He also crushed him in the popular vote too, but imagine that was a pretty good vote with it. Because the election before, Bill Clinton beat George Bush. That was George H.W. That was W, right? Not W. That was H.W. Right? Bush Senior beat George Bush 370 to 168. That was pretty good butt whipping too. Now, that seemed like a good butt kicking. But we were in the age of butt whippings then. We talk about our country being divided now because things are close. And I can kind of see that because for a while things were not close. They were not. Let's look back one more year, one more term back, one more election back in 1988. I was a wonderful 28 years old. It was a year after I got married. We got married in 1987. It was H.W. Bush, Bush Senior, as we like to call him, and Michael Dukakis. Michael Dukakis, I think he had a book called Funny Business or something, and dared the press to look into his personal life, and they did, and they found out the dude was a pig. Man, oh man, it was a nightmare for him. George H.W. won the Electoral College 426 to 111. A butt whipping, because we were in the age of butt whipping. And we found that out fairly early in the process, right? Fairly early in the evening. It was what we really call a landslide now. 312 to 226 is not a landslide. 306 to 232 is not a mandate. 304 to 277 is not a landslide or a mandate. 426 to 111, that's a landslide. That's a mandate. Because again, we were in that age. That's how we did it. Let's go back 2 more terms to 1980, when this face was 20 years old. God, boy, I was so cute. I was adorable. I was at Florida State University. Ronald Reagan was facing James Earl Carter. Carter's he was trying to get elected for the second time. Carter was the incumbent. The Republican Party figured out the time before that they had nominated Gerald Ford. During Reagan's speech, Republicans were on the floor looking at each other saying, "We nominated the wrong dude." Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That was problematical. Let me get my mouse. That was 1976 when Carter won. Carter won this electoral battle 297 to 240. So there was a shot, but they nominated the wrong guy. The next time they got it right, they nominated Ronald Reagan in 1980. And he went out there and dude performed, absolutely performed. Won 489. 489. Do you hear what I'm saying? 489 of electoral votes. 489 out of the 538 that there are. He won 90.8% of the electoral vote. Let there be no doubt. Let there be no doubt and it's funny, as much negative press now, not as much revisionist history as we get about Ronald Reagan. This is what happened. Now, Ronald Reagan ran a second time. He ran as an incumbent, and he won again in 1984. He won again. Now, at this point in recent history, there is no bigger butt weapon from the Electoral College. It is, and it probably won't ever be seen again. Ronald Reagan won 97.5% of the Electoral College. He won every state except Minnesota, and he did not win the District of Columbia. Ronald Reagan won that election 525 electoral votes to 13 when he beat Walter Mondale. Walter Mondale was Carter's vice president. $525 to 13. Can you imagine? Now, this was not a divided country. At this point in 1984, and this is why a lot of people look back at those times as good times, because we weren't as divided or openly divided as people would like to make out. People were still calling Reagan the Antichrist and all this stuff. There was all that rhetoric in the media that was still happening, but the reality of the situation was this. The reality of the situation is that most of America, think about it. Reagan won California. He won Colorado. Reagan won New York. He won Nebraska. He won Florida, New Hampshire. He won Connecticut. He won Ohio. The only place he didn't win was Walter Mondale's home state of Minnesota, and he didn't win the District of Columbia. So it's little surprise, really, what's happening in these two places now. Even when everybody else in the nation had gotten behind Ronald Reagan, these two places were still so, back in 1984, so far left that they couldn't get there. Which explains a lot, doesn't it? It explains what happened during COVID and the BLM riots and all this stuff. It explains it because that's where they've been for a long time. My God. We're never going to see anything like that again. A lot of people are calling this a red wave, and probably in recent history, a red wave, because not only did Trump win the Electoral College, 57%. He won by 3.7 million votes. There hasn't been a Republican that's won the popular vote since, I think, George Bush in 2004. Now, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. That's fine. I don't feel bad. I won't feel bad about that. I'll feel bad if it's corrected and we get it right. All right. So, but do we have a mandate? I believe that they have a mandate. And I already put up a piece saying that Republicans need to act like it. What's impressive, frankly, about Democrats is when they win, they act like it. Barack Obama said, elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. And if you win an election and then nothing changes, so the new ideas don't come in and take hold, then why are you having elections? Why are you having these expensive, contentious elections if nothing changes? Why are you doing that? So Barack Obama was right. I know it makes some of y'all crazy when I say that these kind of things, but he was right. Elections have consequences. And here's what you need to tell your friends. And here's more importantly what you need to tell your Congress critters and your president and your governors and your representatives of the House and your senators. Elections have consequences. And we need to exact those consequences. Or what are we doing? Or what are we doing? What? Why all the hubbub, bub? If we're not going to start making differences and making those differences immediately, because you don't have a lot of time. As you can see, you can plainly see that these advantages go back and forth. Barack Obama, let me see, Barack Obama in 08 beat John McCain 365 electoral votes to 175. A good old fashioned butt whipping. A good old fashioned butt whipping. The power goes back and forth. And what's interesting is that one of Barack Obama's biggest supporters later on was John McCain. When they talk about the Uniparty, that's what we're talking about. If we win, we got to act like it. Don't you think? Anyway, I got to get out of here. Make room for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, please take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.